There was a reporter who asked Sam Darnold, they stated to Sam Darnold, hey, you're the first quarterback from the 2018 class to be starting in a Super Bowl. And he said, yeah, well, I've been to the Super Bowl before on the 49ers when he was a backup for Brock Purdy. And so now Sam is returning to the Super Bowl as the Seahawks beat the Rams 31-27 in what was a great game. We got a defensive battle in the first game, and then we ended up getting a bit of an offensive shootout in the second game as Seahawks prevail over the Rams 31-27. For Toddy and I mean, I'm not going to speak for Toddy, but for me, it was a game there. I was just like, I don't care who wins. As a 49ers fan, I want both these teams to lose. That's impossible. So it is what it is. It's tough too, because like, I really like Sam Darnold. I appreciate how he really looks at his 1-year vacation in San Francisco with such reverence. But then the fact that he plays for the Seattle Seahawks, the team that I hate more than any other sports franchise ever, it's tough for me. So I can't believe I'm saying it, but go Patriots. Anyways, Seahawks beat the Rams 31-27. Jerry, what was your reaction to this NFC West championship game?
Well, it's really what I thought was going to happen. I mean, when you look at Seattle, they seem to be pretty well rounded, both offensively and defensively. And Darnold, right? I mean, who gives up a quarterback that goes 14-2, and then he shows up again that goes 14-2 on another team? Between him, which by the way, he's probably going to be well, he's in the running. Let's say he's in the running for the MVP, right? But I kind of thought that the Seahawks have a better overall. I mean, with what's the guy's name? Smith. How do you say his last name? Yeah,
Jigba.
yeah. I mean, he was just unreal in the first half, and I was thinking, okay, they can't slow him down, but they have weapons. I mean, they've got tight ends, they've got wideouts, they've got Cooper Kupp's running out there now, right? And then and they're missing their top running back, but they've got their which I thought was one of the better nicknames in the league too, is the Kenneth Walker. I get to call him K9 because his number's 9, right? And I think from a team standpoint, and defensively they get after it. And so, I thought it was a game. I thought that's how it was going to end. I didn't know if the Rams had as much as offensive power as the Seahawks did, and I also think that the Seahawks got a better coach. From a coaching standpoint, I think McVay. He's won one, and he's led the program a little bit, but he's just like some of these other coaches who are taking these fourth down chances and they're rolling the dice. And I'm an old school guy when it comes to that. You don't give up points. You don't leave points on the board. You're sitting out there at the 40-yard line. I mean, that's the last place you wanted to give somebody a good offense possession, because now they have a shorter field to get to. And to me, you just back them up, make them go 80 yards, make them go 90 yards. If you punt from the 40, you put them down, get it inside the 10, it makes a different, game strategically. So, no, I just thought Seahawks looked good. I think, I think they're going to probably take the whole thing, to be honest with you. So I know you're not going to be happy with that, but, they were impressive to me.
Yeah, after the Seahawks absolutely destroyed Toddy and I's Niners, all I could really say, and I said this to a couple of my friends who are Seahawks fans, is the Seahawks are elite. They're going to go win it all. And while I may not like it, I'm enough of a sports fan to see the reality for what it is. And before we get the takes from the rest of the guys on the panel, I did want to follow up with one thing that you said, Jerry, and get your thoughts on it, because regarding Sam Darnold's 1 year with the Minnesota Vikings, he had a tremendous regular season, but then the season finale wasn't great as they had a chance to win the NFC North. I think they had the first round bye and the number 1 seed was on the line. They didn't perform well against the Lions. And then they go to the playoffs and they lose 27-9 against the Rams in a game. And that game wasn't even in LA. It was in Arizona, played on a neutral field because of the wildfires. And Sam Darnold, he just had back-to-back bad games after such a tremendous season. And so how much stock do you put into those last 2 games? Because recency bias gets the best of all of us sometimes. And so everyone could only remember going into the offseason the back-to-back bad games that Sam had. but there was a huge sample size that preceded it. And so for you as an NFL veteran, how much stock do you put into those 2 games that quote unquote matter the most compared to what he did the rest of the year?
Yeah, that's kind of a good point, because it's how did he perform when all the marbles were on the table, right? I mean, how did he come through in the playoffs when they needed him the most? And I think it's and I heard this about Sam Darnold, which was kind of interesting, because when they started breaking down how he was as a quarterback, strong arm, this and that, so on and so forth, the one thing I heard was that he has the ability to forget his bad plays and forget his bad games and bounce back from those. And that's what you've seen, especially it was a two, maybe it was the 49er game. I think he had a couple of bad plays, but from a mental standpoint, he came back and kind of led his team. Darnold's I like him. I don't know why he bounced around like he does. And I think it's probably because, what happened there in Minnesota at the end. They said we could lose with JJ McCarthy, so we don't, but when you get a guy that's got it rolling, like he's got it going up down in Seattle, and you get a defense behind it, you get a running game behind it, you look at him and say, look, just go out there and sling it, don't make mistakes. And then next thing you know, you're the number one offense in the NFL. So I look at them. I saw those things last year too, but I'll keep him. I'll take him anytime, and you can see how he's playing now. Just a little bit of confidence, the right coaching, the right team behind it. It's steamroll. He's steamrolling.
Definitely. So, Jaevon, you and I may not like it, but the Seahawks are back in the Super Bowl, and they're getting a chance at revenge for some Seahawks fans who remember the game 11 years ago. And so now they're facing the Patriots. It's 2 completely different teams, obviously. But what was your reaction to the Seahawks beating the Rams in this matchup of NFC West teams, Jaevon?
Also, want to touch on what Uncle JB was talking about his stint in Minnesota. I think it was tough for Minnesota because of the financial and draft compensation that they already committed to JJ McCarthy. Him being drafted, I think it was 11th, 10th or 11th. So they felt like they had to play him at some point in time, and also having Sam Darnold being that bridge type of quarterback and kind of get him on a more team friendly deal. Kind of, Sam was asking for a little bit more than what Minnesota wanted to do, and for them to already have drafted JJ McCarthy were kind of saying they had to play him at some point in time. And for him to get hurt kind of just made it easier for Sam to just go out and just ball. Um, and now Sam's obviously in Seattle, and Minnesota misses the playoffs. As far as the game goes, I thought Sam Darnold played phenomenal. He connected on a bunch of passes. Like everybody was pretty much scoring, from guys like Kenneth Walker to Jake Bobo, who me and Kevin always talk every day. He said he only caught 2 passes all year, and then he just somehow catches the passes in the NFC Championship game. And Jackson Smith-Jigba is probably the best receiver in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, like 1,800 yards this year. I think he had double-digit touchdowns. I'm not too sure on the touchdowns, but I mean, if you just want, anybody with eyes can see that this guy is one of the best receivers in the league, and he really hasn't been talked like, oh, he's one of those guys. Like he's not. People still say he's not Jamar, he's not Jettas, and I mean, I'm just from a number standpoint, from watching the games. I mean, he's torching any and everybody. Doesn't matter who's guarding him. You're seeing double coverage. It's what he's been doing this whole entire season. I wasn't really too keen to him. I don't know if a lot of us were. We knew like what his capability was, but he was kind of overshadowed by guys like Tyler Lockett and by DK Metcalf. And when he finally got his chance, he took it and ran with it. Kenneth Walker is a monster, obviously. I just thought the Rams had a lot of chances, as Uncle JB was saying earlier. A couple 4th downs that they weren't able to get, and they were going for it pretty much like towards the middle of the field, so like 50-yard line, 40-yard line, giving Seattle a short field to kind of play with. Seattle had, or the Rams had the muff punt, which didn't really help them at all because they were automatically in like the red zone when they fumbled, and they cashed in, scored a touchdown, kind of putting them up by 2 possessions, and the Rams were kind of just playing catch up the majority of the game. Matt Stafford was pretty much flawless in this game. Puka Nacua another guy who's probably a top 5 receiver. Like, he's just been on whenever possible. Kaz kind of scrunches his face when I say Puka Nacua, top 5 receiver. I don't think that we can look at the numbers. I think just when it comes down to it, they were just a little bit. The Seahawks had just a little bit more. I think these teams are pretty much evenly matched. I think what puts Seattle over, their defense is really, really physical. I'm not going to say that they're Legion of Boom physical, but they have that type of physicality that I have been seeing. I mean, Amoria, I don't know how to say his last name. You guys could probably the rookie corner.
Exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. The rookie corner, dog. Devin Witherspoon, monster. And they've consistently hit on their defensive draft picks year in and year out. I think with a lot of GMs, you're kind of hoping and wishing that you're going to hit on these types of picks. But when GMs consistently hit on their draft picks, we see Howie Roseman, who's done it for the past couple of years. When you consistently hit on your draft picks, you don't have to pay those guys right away. So you can get away with paying a star wide receiver or a star running back. And those guys on the defensive side of the ball, if they're able to go out and play at a high, like a Pro Bowl caliber level for pennies on the dollar, this is how you get these types of teams. So hats off to the Seattle organization. We saw in Sean McVay's press conference, they asked him if Stafford would be back next year. Obviously, he's going to be 38, I think, in like 2 weeks. And he kind of got mad and said, what kind of question is that? It's a fair question. I mean, he is about to be almost 40, but he played at an MVP caliber level, so I could see why his frustration led to that particular answer. But I probably would expect Stafford to be back next year. Even like before the season, when people were saying that he wasn't going to be to the best of his abilities because he wasn't practicing in training camp, obviously because of his back, the guy goes out and plays the entire season, like no problem. So I think for players like him, you have to give him that type of leeway because obviously he's an older player. And usually older players don't really practice as much summertime up in training camp. And just got to make sure when week 1 comes around that he's ready to roll. So Seahawks win. Darnold played out of his mind. I think he threw for 300 plus, 3 touchdowns. And yeah, Seattle they're probably a touchdown favorite right now, which is insane to say in the Super Bowl game, but I think there have been bigger spreads, honestly. Couple years. I think one of those 49ers Super Bowls, I'm pretty sure they were like a 2 touchdown favorite. So for this game to be like a touchdown spread, I think it's going to be a pretty tight game.
I would agree. I think it's going to be a great game. And so, Kaz, now tossing it over to you. We've talked a lot about Sam Darnold, but we haven't really talked about who he replaced, and that's Geno Smith. When that move happened, a lot of people were saying, Sam Darnold's going to get paid more. I'd rather have Geno right now. I've seen some cold takes on Twitter where people are finding tweets from a year ago, and they're like, oh, would you really rather still have Geno Smith? Geno Smith goes from being on the Seahawks, and I believe that they barely missed the playoffs last year, to now this year, Geno Smith is on the Raiders. They get the first overall pick, and Sam Darnold has led the Seahawks to at least a Super Bowl appearance. And so a lot factors in there. But, Kaz, what was your reaction to the Seahawks beating the Rams 31-27?
Just want to address one thing real quick. My reaction to him saying Puka Nacua is probably a top 5 wide receiver. I made that face because – how dare you? We just watched 2 of the top 3 receivers in the league. Top 5 is disrespect. Puka Nacua is top 3. That he's an animal. I have never seen anything like this.
And one thing I wanted to add to that, Kaz, is I saw a graphic today on Twitter where it was 4 players on it, and it said you have to eliminate one. It was JSN, Puka, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase. And it's like, with those 4, who would you eliminate out of those 4? It's almost impossible, but please continue.
I know one right now can get the hell out of that's Jay Jettis. I'm taking the other 3 over Jay Jettis right now. That's just my opinion. But other than that, though, I'm just saying Puka Nacua. We saw 2 of the top 3 wide receivers. Maybe not overall. We'll see in a couple years, maybe two or 3 years. But we saw 2 of the top 3 in the league just the other day. Puka Nacua is an animal, and JSN. I don't know what I saw, but that was some brilliant wide receiver play that game by so many wide receivers. Every wide receiver, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp. You know what I'm saying? Obviously Puka did what he did. I mean, I think JSN had 100 yards at halftime or close to it. Like
he had 115 had 7 for 115 and a touchdown.
And then Puka, like he already had like 5 receptions at halftime or close to it. So I'm like, I already knew what it was off the jump, and just give myself a little more credit before I get into my take on the game. I picked the wrong team to win, but I was spot on with what I said, what was going to happen, and it was going to be a
2-for-2.
Yeah, but you know what? You know what though? You talking about that you were 99% right. But when you pick a team and they lose, that's 50-50. So
hey, all I'll say is this: I did say that
49%.
it's gonna be fireworks. I said it's gonna be a high scoring game. There are some people out there that were saying that the Seattle's defense is gonna be too much. I don't think that neither defense was stopping these offenses. I mean, it was a show and it was really fun to watch. But I will say this: big shout out to Sam Darnold, dude balled. I can't really say, we can give Stafford a lot of credit, but we know what Stafford's capable of. Obviously Puka Nacua, the veteran Devontae Adams. It's like, and Sean McVay. I mean, these. Two of those guys have been there, and won the big game. So it's like, I got to give more credit to Seattle. I mean, they played lights out, man. And Darnold was about as good as you can be as a quarterback in the biggest game of his career. So watching him play that game, watching how they closed that game, I mean, it was a great football game. And I think that, we talk about Kenneth Walker, and I'm not a big fan of Kenneth Walker as a fantasy football owner of him for the last couple of years. It's either hit or miss. Then there's some games where I'm like, bro, is Zach Charbonnet like just that much better than him? Like, where's Kenneth Walker at? Like, why is he? And all of a sudden, next game pops off playing like prime Adrian Peterson. I don't understand it, but that's just the way that he is. Showed up early in the game, started the ball out immediately. And anyone who knows anything about football is if you establish the run right away, and they can't stop the run, the game is in your control. And so shout out to the Seahawks for getting Kenneth Walker involved early, but you're going against the Los Angeles Rams. All it took was a couple punts, and they capitalized on those punts, and they responded really well. So just an overall fun game to watch. I can't say a negative thing about either team. I can't say a negative thing about either quarterback, either receiver, coaches, I thought it was a good game. It came down to which team made the least amount of mistakes. Sean McVay. I think that Jerry, you mentioned that he's more of a gambler, like most veteran coaches. You saw it there. You got to take the points. Take the points. If the points aren't there, you pin them back. It's playoff football, and I talked about it when the Eagles were playing the Niners before that game happened. But I was like, the playoffs are a different beast. Now, even though our team didn't come out on top, Kevin, but I still stand by what I said. It's a chess match, man. It's all about who can really put their team in position to win when it matters the most. You're not going to go into a playoff game more often than not and just dominate. And we've only seen, I think, one game this throughout these playoffs. It was the Patriots versus whoever I can't remember they played. Was it who'd they crush?
No, not the Texans.
They crushed
Chargers.
They beat the Chargers handily, and then I forgot the Texans did also handle the Steelers. But you don't really see that in playoff games. That's not a real thing more often than not. They're usually really hard fought games, and then when it comes down to the end of the games, either a team pulls away or it comes down to a field goal, and that's it. So the fact that this game went the way that it went, I just enjoyed it. It was fun football, and something that I haven't seen a lot this season. I think that we all can agree, statistically and just from a viewer standpoint. It wasn't a big offensive year for football. There wasn't a lot of, 40, 50-point games like we've seen in previous years. Hell, I don't think there's even too many 30-point games. A lot of poor performances in offenses all season long, even from the rushing leaders to the to the passing leaders, to the top rushers. You got your number one guys, and everyone else just falls off tremendously. So not a lot of offense this season. To see that game was exciting as a fan. So it was fun to watch. I'm not sure if you really care about the prediction right now, but I don't think that anybody's stopping the Seahawks team. They're too well rounded. The Patriots are well rounded as well, but I think that Seattle's just that defense is too much. They're ready to go, and I'm not sure if you guys really watched that defense in between plays during the AFC or NFC Championship game. But I mean, dude, they're ready. They're hungry, and I don't think that the Patriots are ready for that defense. So we'll see.
Jerry, did you want to jump in real quickly before we heard from Kevin?
Well, no, you're talking about the Seattle defense, right? And I heard somebody say that they asked me to name 2 or 3 players from their defense, and I was like, maybe the guy that got the personal foul penalty, number 27.
Tariq
But they're not well known, but they play well enough together, and that's the key. So that's the point I wanted to make.
Yeah, and also I think about a guy like Leonard Williams, who kind of had his career dwindling in New Jersey, and then he ends up finding his way to Seattle, and now he is headed to the Super Bowl. Even a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence, who spent 11 seasons in Dallas, and he was basically just stuck in purgatory. I saw a graphic today. I didn't download it to put it on the screen right now, but I saw a graphic today that basically said a timeline of when NFC teams have last played for a conference championship. And you had Dallas way over here outside of the screen in 1996. And then the next closest was, I believe, 2010, when you had whoever was in 2010. Oh, the Bears. The Chicago Bears were in 2010. And then 2011, you had the New York Giants. And then there was the rest in the 2010s to 2020s. So DeMarcus Lawrence, 11 years in Dallas, can't get to the Super Bowl or even sniff a conference championship, and now first year in Seattle, and he's going to the bowl. So, Kevin, what was your reaction to the Seahawks beating the Rams?
Shaun, I did want to say this real quick too, just to kind of go back what Toddy said about how this Seattle defense, like, they're obviously not the Legion of Boom. That's obviously a way different defense, but it's more so about their demeanor. When they're out there, you see it, they're chirping, they're in people's faces. They're it's like as an Eagles fan, like, Kevin, you can like vouch for me there. When our defense is clicking, it looks like they're having fun out there. It's like when you watch the Seattle's defense, like, it looks like they're having fun out there and they're being very, very active. Like, they're not really quiet. They're not silent. And like, you see that you don't really need to have a lot of big name players, on that defense. I mean, I think Jerry said it best. Like, these guys just they play for each other, obviously. And I think that's a big deal. I mean, you got 11 guys in that defense. You go out there, you don't need, a Ray Lewis or an Ed Reed or anything like that. You got 11 guys that all have each other's back. I mean, you're kind of seeing it happen there in Seattle. So I just wanted to kind of double back on that and kind of just speak on that again. So
yeah, thank you for adding that, because I look at a guy like Tariq Woolen, and he just gives me Richard Sherman vibes from those early 2010 Seattle Seahawks teams, specifically when it comes to the chirping and how much he's talking. And I did see right after the game, he came right up to Sean McVay and shook his hand, and kind of a la Richard Sherman too, when I believe Richard Sherman stuck the hand out to Crabtree, and Crabtree just slapped the hand away in very poor sportsmanship fashion. But Kevin, if you could close us out for this segment with your thoughts on the Seahawks beating the Rams.
Definitely. So I watched this game with a bunch of Alyssa's friends. So they're all Seahawk fans. They're like, Kevin, who are you going for? And I was like, I don't think you really want to ask me, because it's the opposite of all of you guys. Why, Kevin? Why? And I was like, you guys see that guy for the blue team, number 17, Devontae Adams. Before yesterday, he was 0-4 in NFC championship games. We have seen him put his life on the line. The Netflix quarterback show, he said, I got to get out of here. This guy's going to get me killed. Like, Devontae Adams, when it's all said and done, is going to be a Hall of Famer. Is going to be a guy that current wide receivers say they studied. Devontae Adams, he is the first player in NFL history to lead the NFL in touchdowns with 3 different teams. I wanted this so bad for Devontae Adams, and the Rams lost this game the same way they lost the other 6. Special teams. We all remember when Jordan Davis blocked the field goal. We all remember the muff punts. Like, they have lost countless games because of special teams. They fired their coach week 5. Their special teams coach week 5. They said, we've got enough. Like, this is week 5. We should not have this many mishaps. And it just goes to show, you can have the Matthew Stafford, you can have the Puka Nakuas, but all 3 phases have to show up to win a game. You can't have your offensive defense show up and special teams not show up, because if they don't muff that punt, they don't go down 11, it's still a 3-point game, and who knows what happens. That was a game that was electrifying, and after that muff punt, they scored the very next play, just like Toddy mentioned. So it's something to say about the Rams. I know we've been saying a lot about the Seahawks. It's going to be interesting to kind of see what this Rams team looks like next year. But Sean McVay is going to be back, and we're going to see they have 2 first-round picks coming up. So do they get a quarterback? Do they get a plan B? So it's going to be interesting to see where they go from there from a Seahawks standpoint. There have been 5 quarterbacks. Now Sam Darnold joins an elite list of 5 quarterbacks that have a complete quarterback QBR on third down and on red zones on 95 and above, and that's out of 100. These 5 guys, now including Sam Darnold, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes, the one and only Jalen Hurts, and Sam Darnold. Hey, Todd, you can smack your lips all you want. That's an elite list. Brock Purdy ain't on no list with Tom Brady. I'm just saying. I just want to I just have to come out there and know. Joe Douglas, the day they let go of Sam Darnold, they asked him in an interview,
He's
well,
unemployed.
You said what?
I said,
yeah, he's now unemployed. Yeah, he's now unemployed. They asked him, did you make the wrong pick? He said, Sam Darnold is going to be a hell of a football player. And it's not that I was wrong. We had the wrong infrastructure around him, and this guy's going to be a star in the league. So we talk about guys like with the Raiders having the number 1 pick. Do you really want to bring a quarterback into that situation when everything around you is shit? So it's going to be interesting. But another thing that I wanted to say is, as an Eagles fan, there is nothing better that I got to see on Sunday than to know that Toddy and Shaun have to see an NFC West opponent go to a Super Bowl in their arena. You guys talk about we got 5 all time. If the Seahawks win, you've seen 3 of your NFC rival opponents win before you got to see 1. So it's all good and dandy to say we got 5, but you ain't seen your team win 1. And if the Seahawks don't pass on 4th and inches, it's 4. So it makes me feel good as a fan of the Eagles to see that not only is it your rival, they're going to be getting dressed in your locker. They're going to say, oh, let me wipe the dust off. Oh, that says Fred Warner? Oh, let's take that shit off. So they're going to go into your arena, and, We'll talk about our previews later. We talked about how he was one of the first quarterbacks in 2018. You got Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield. And that's funny how people will talk about Josh Rosen being a part of that draft, like he didn't get replaced the very next season. But he was also in that quarterback draft class. And Toddy sent in a video, TikTok, saying that now people are going to say Sam Darnold's better than Josh Allen. And I said, make sure you don't forget, he's also better than Lamar Jackson now, too. But that's neither here nor there. But overall thoughts, JSN is, I think it's the 1A, 1B. I think we're going to have the same conversations we did with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson with Puka and JSN, because they both get all the targets. So it's really going to be hard to say who you guys, maybe it's not for you guys, but for me, it's really a 1A, 1B. It's just so hard in this day of age. We have so many young receivers coming in to say he's the best, because last year, Kaz, this is going to hurt. We were saying AJ Brown was top 3. This summer, when we do receiver rankings, it might have a 1 in front of that 3. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so crazy to see how fast 17 games go by, and it changes your whole opinion on
Life comes at you fast.
I mean, life comes at you fast.
Just gonna forget about Kevin Petula, but all right then, brother.
We talked about Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors being the next guys, and Brian Thomas fell off a cliff. There's so many young guys coming into the league. It's really hard. And then you see situations like Justin Jefferson when he has the 5 of us throwing him the football. So it's really hard. But moral of the story, the Seahawks go on to beat the Rams. I really wanted this for Devontae Adams. Like I said, being 0-5. So it's going to be sad to see him go, and maybe that was his last go-round. I predict if Matt Stafford retires, I think he leaves. Retires as well, ends on a high note. But it's going to be interesting. We got 2 weeks. So we got a lot of football to discuss until then.
We sure do. And I was rooting for Devontae as well, because he's from Palo Alto, went to Fresno State. And as you mentioned, Kevin, he just has not had any success when it comes to conference championship games. And he was well aware of that going into the game, because I'm not sure how many of you saw his press conference leading into the game itself, but he was basically saying, forgive me for not really seeming too happy about being here or getting here, but I've been here 4 times before. It hasn't worked out for me. So I'll celebrate later when we win this game. But right now, I'm not satisfied. And kind of going back to what Kobe would say. And rest in peace to Kobe, Gianna, and the 7 others who perished on this day 6 years ago. But never satisfied is Devontae Adams, and it's understandable why, given his track record. And now it just gets even further for him, which is really unfortunate. So